What does it mean for someone to succeed the prophet, to follow in the footsteps of the prophet? If someone is going to be a khalifa, someone who stands in the place of someone else, a word that we see in the Quran being used for the first human being, Adam, who is God's khalifa on the planet, who is the one who takes a trust or an amanat, which is where the moral capacity of human beings is found, and that only we have taken on an amanat or a trust from the deity. That this person who was to succeed the prophet, what would his duties be? Some people, a very small minority of people, held a position that was immediately rejected by the great majority of the community, which is that maybe there'll be another prophet. There was always a possibility. There was a woman, out in the hinterland who came forward and said, I'm the next prophet. And people rejected that. The idea that there would be another prophet after Muhammad was rejected, thereby taking this term that the prophet is the seal of the prophets to mean that he will be the last one. But let's say that, okay, there won't be anyone else who will be this sort of close confidant of God, this person who will get revelations. What will this person be? Will they be someone who has some kind of mystical connection with the divine? Whose will is attuned with the divine will in some kind of supernatural way? Will it be someone who will figure out how to govern the polity that Muhammad had established according to the traditions that the Prophet had left behind and the Quran? A very important question: should Islam continue as a polity at all? One of the first crises in Islam, the one where Abu Bakr makes what I would call his main contribution as the first of the four Rashidun caliphs, is this thing called the Ridda Wars or the Apostasy Wars. But it wasn't really about apostasy. It wasn't really about people who stopped believing in God, who stopped believing in the Prophet, who stopped believing in the authority of the Quran. It was, do we, people who believe in God and the Prophet and the Quran, now that the Prophet's gone, do we owe any authority to the Muslim polity? Do we need to pay taxes to a Muslim state? Do we need to funnel our zakat through the Muslim state? And it's fascinating that very early on, the Muslim community decided, just as it decided to date its calendar from when a Muslim polity was established in Medina, decided that you can't just leave the community and be a believer but not part of the ummah in this more social and communal sense. That was a major decision. It's not guaranteed that Islam would have gone in that way. And so the issue of the Khalifa, of the Caliph, I'll use the English word just because it's easier to follow along. The question of, it's not just the question of who would be the Caliph, but what would the role of the Caliph be? And I think it's important to note that that is caught up in the understanding that Islam decided very early on that there had been a state established and a state would be continued, and that there would be someone who carried on the political and military role of the Prophet Muhammad, and that would be one of the things that this caliph would have to do. Now, in order to understand the issue of caliphate, the other thing we have to understand, and I assume you all talked about this when you talked about the life of the Prophet, is the importance of tribe and clan among the pre-Islamic Arabs and even the Arabs during the time of the life of the Prophet. I think that if you really look carefully at the writings of Ibn Ishaq and the history of Tabari, one of the things that becomes very clear is that the greatest struggle that the Prophet Muhammad had with the early converts to Islam, including those who became his closest confidants and friends, his Sahaba, was the struggle to break with the authority of one's clan and tribe, to replace the notion that the most important relationships in your life were those with the people who were members of your tribe and your clan, and were instead your relationships with the Ummah.